Hello and welcome to World of Tanks with Trapsikis. We're having a look at my buddy Tracer's steel in his T55A, which a lot of you will know is the third reward tank on the long-awaited backup campaign. If you compare it to the other tier 9 mediums, obviously I don't have all of the tier 9 mediums here, you'll see that it's got pretty decent DPM. However, the armor and mobility, personally I feel, need to be addressed by Wargaming. The reason I say that is compare the T55A and the WZ120, or the T54 instead. They are very similar tanks, but the T54 has better mobility and better armor. You would expect that a tank that has better mobility has worse armor, or better armor has worse mobility. However, Wargaming has decided not to do this. Beyond that, the tank has some of the worse armor, but not very bad, and some of the best ground resistances, with very decent gun handling and good accuracy. So, not a bad vehicle. However, personally, I feel the mobility, at least the engine power, should be upgraded to about at least what the WZ120 has, to be more competitive, and the weight should be adjusted because it's got less armor than the T54. It should have at most the same weight. Right, let's switch to the game. I've allowed the start to play out without boring you with it. Now the T71A does quite an aggressive move there, and the friendly AMX 1375 similarly. But the T71 is punishing the AMX 1375 for his start. Fortunately, Tracer manages to put in a very good round into his back and bounces a shell from the 5120. Now, a less experienced player may have held his finger on the button and shot into the dirt there after the T71 disappeared behind the ridge, but Tracer doesn't make that mistake. And now you can see that he bounced 240 damage from the T29, which tells you that he has the the stock gun, or the one of the stock guns, which is something you need to consider when you want to take a chance on poking. If he has the top gun, then he can one-shot you with 300 hit points. However, with this gun he can only go up to, well, the average damage is 240, so it makes a difference to when you can poke, and the penetration is also different. So he took one shell from the T29 and landed 4 back. That's a pretty fair trade. Now, back to the middle, you'll notice that the friendly team has totally neglected the magic forest, which could be a disadvantage. You'll see there's 4 tanks ganking on the J-Panther there in the northeastern corner of the map, and they will obviously soon be heading to cap. So someone will need to address that. However, the western side of the map is much easier to defend. So if your team does decide to go for the western side, if you are aware of the map and you go back to the cap to reset when you need to, the western side is probably, strategically speaking, a better side to focus on. Right. So fortunately bouncing a shell from the Scorpion G there, and unfortunately not tracking the T10 up on the hill. Tracer's up to 2,500 damage and 700 spotting, so not a bad round so far. And now he's going to try to land a shell on the T10 there, but because of the lower gun depression, he's only got 5 as opposed to the T54 6 degrees. It's difficult to hit someone when you snapshot and poke. So another degree of gun depression might be very beneficial to this tank, and might be sensible because it's so similar to the T54 in most aspects that it should, in that respect, also be competitive. Alright, so you can see in the northern edge of the map that there's 4 people near the friendly cap circle, and somebody will need to address that soon. Now, Tracer taking the chance on the T10 and managing to track him in place and do some damage, but paying a big penalty, a shell from the Scorpion G to his side. So now he's on about half health, but he's already done 1,500 spotting damage, so not a bad round. Now he's heading back to cap, and he asks the friendly WZ132 Wasabi Ninja, who's been camping at the back the entire time, to spot the enemies that are capping. So a very good plan in this situation would be for someone like a light tank to move forward and spot, and someone with a better gun like the M103 or the T55A to shoot the enemies. Then the light tank will be unspotted if you use bush mechanics, and the friendly guys defending the base will be safe. However, Wasabi Ninja's response to light up the tanks, when you ask the light tank to light up the tanks, I don't think it's unreasonable, is negative. So unfortunately, no lighting up of tanks by our friendly light tank, but fortunately the M103 has taken it upon himself to rush in and spot the cappers and help the friendlies to stop the capture. Alright, so the Tiger P, as you may know, has a frontal plate, only one plate, of 200mm of armor, but fortunately he decides to give his side to Tracer, which obliges and takes him out. You'll notice that Tracer is running out of AP shells, but he aims perfectly into the cupola of the I6 there and manages to eliminate him. Alright, so the immediate threat has been dealt with. The cappers have been eliminated. However, it's now 8 versus 8, so it's still not an easy match. You still have some work to do before we're going to win. However, when you're in this kind of situation, have a look at the number of tiers, so number of tanks of each tier that's remaining. The friendlies have 3 tier 9s remaining, and the M103 and Tracer has already proven themselves to be pretty good. I haven't noticed the T10, so I can't see anything about him, but the enemies have now lost all of their tier 9s, so this makes a significant difference. Even though the kills are only 1 apart, the number of top tiers can make a huge difference in this kind of engagement. Right, so probably the most dangerous gun on the enemy team now eliminated, and Tracer can focus on the light tank there. Unfortunately, he manages to land a shell, and Tracer is now on 417, which is about 2 shots for any one of the enemies, so he does need to be careful. Right. Eliminating the light tank there, eliminating the eyes of the enemy, and the T10 takes out the Tiger, so only artillery remaining, which has an effect on the landscape. Unfortunately, the enemy M4043 takes out the friendly T10, and the friendly Wasabi Ninja said, "Do your job, T55," and Tracer responding with 4,500 damage, over 2,000 spotting. My job here is done. Rightly so. He's already done the same amount of spotting damage that the WZ has done in the entire game, and will do in the entire game, and he's already done more than twice as much damage. So once again, experience showing here. Tracer not putting his finger on the trigger and not accidentally wasting his last HE shell when the friendly artillery takes out the Crusader, and he knows where the artillery should be, so he stays on the ridge here and waits to take the shot. Enemy artillery will be spotted any second, and Tracer accepting the platoon invite so that they can take brothers in arms. Very good game, Tracer. Very well done. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. Ace Tanker, not surprising there. Hand of God, having taken damage from so many different enemies and survived. Defender medal for defending the friendly game, and high caliber and top gun. So sorry, little WZ, you were not right to tell Tracer to do his job. Base experience of 1,488, obviously with the reward tank having the experience bonus. I believe that's one of the older premium tanks, so they still have a bigger experience bonus. And as you can see, he did more than twice the amount of damage that anyone on his own team managed to do, and significantly more than anyone in the enemy team. So very well done there, Tracer. And on the personal details, thanks to running a premium account, he did manage to make a little bit of a profit. The running out of AP shells and starting to shoot heat obviously hurting your pocket, but still in a tier 9 game, having shot quite a few premium rounds to still make a profit is quite impressive. Thank you for sending me this replay, Tracer, and thank you for watching.